Just kind of doing a little video blog here. I was going to set up the bikes and do a review of them out here, like just kind of walk through them, tell you a couple things about each one of the bikes, but you can kind of see, you really can't see the bike at all. So I'm going to have to wait until my leg gets healed up a little bit more, and then I can get down the basement because I got a nice big white wall down there where you'll actually be able, there'll be some contrast between the bike and the background, so I can get into a little bit more in depth. But this is my Fargo here that I got back from down in Iowa. Josh had the bike for 4 years and he hardly ever used it. I messaged him one time and I asked him if I could get it back, and he said that he'd just rather keep it. He figured it was easier to keep it than it was to find another one if he ever had to. But he didn't end up using it hardly at all, because this is the same exact rear tire that was on it when I sent it off to him, and it's just it practically looks exactly the same as when I sent it to him. It's like he kind of kept it for me for 4 years. But yeah, just really happy to have it back. I think I've probably beaten that horse to death about that whole story of getting the Fargo back and all that. So I'll just kind of give you a short little walkthrough on this one. There'll be a bigger video on it later, I'm sure, once I can get down the basement and actually get a better visual of the bike than what I have here. It was my favorite bike back in the day. It was kind of my first gravel bike. I'm a bigger guy, and it's nice to have these larger, more cushy tires, where like most of my friends, they're running their smaller, almost like a road bike tire, like not a road bike tire, but like the Clement Explorers and stuff like that. Like they're pretty narrow. And when I ride that on looser gravel, it really sinks in. And kind of the same idea of having a fat bike on snow. These give me more float when it comes to a looser gravel. And so this is the ticket for a bigger person who wants to get out and kind of do the same roads and the same rides and have the same confidence, especially going downhill. This thing, I can bomb a hill like crazy on it. I pass people on warbirds just because simply, I mean, I have more weight. I have so there's more, gravity's working with me on a downhill, and I just fly. And with these tires and this bike, I have tons of confidence that I'm not gonna sink in and go right over the handlebars or something. Going uphill, I mean, I'm slow anyway going up a hill, because it doesn't matter if I have some carbon crazy light bike. It matters if I'm confident going down the hill. So that's my take on riding gravel, being a bigger guy, and just being able to go out there, have fun, have some beers with your friends. And I mean, usually for me it's after the ride, because if I have a beer in the middle of the ride, I'm done. So anyway, this is the Fargo. This is the bike that I did my first 100 on. I did multiple 50s on it. I took it out with me to Las Vegas, and I rode around Las Vegas with it. I went down to my friend Brandon's house in Mesa, Arizona. We did a road ride with that. He had like a carbon road bike, and we went out and we had a good time. I mean, I didn't feel like I was holding them up at all. And again, here with these aero bars, they help out too, because I can get down out of the wind. I tuck in and get my arms out, and it's amazing how much more speed you can get and how much more powerful you feel when you're not getting pelted in the chest with wind. Just kind of acting like a parachute all the time, where if you can get down, you can get in that tuck position, it really does help. And people wouldn't think so on a bike like this or a guy big like me, but it is a huge advantage when you're heading into the wind. So and then I took it to Pikes Peak, and I only rode probably about 3 or 4 miles up the mountain. I started at the visitor center, which is already up there a little bit, and it's pretty high, and I'm not used to elevation. When it comes to like the breathing and all that, like it affects me because I'm from Wisconsin. I've never been in the mountains really. I get above 6,000 feet, and even like going on a walk is kind of tough. But anyway, can't remember what elevation I was at when I started. But the biggest thing and the biggest worry I had was coming down and the brakes. I mean, I was on the brakes all the time. I'd have been going 99 miles an hour by the time I came to one of those corners. There's no guardrails, there's no nothing. And fly right off the edge of a mountain, which I'm not much for heights as it is. So me coming around those corners at Mach 20 is just not a good idea. But anyway, I remember coming down and taking it in small increments and just kind of letting the brakes kind of cool off. And at one point I stopped and I was just thinking, man, those things just got to be cooking. So I took my water bottle and I squirted some of my water onto one of the brakes and just sizzled. So I would really love to go back sometime when I'm in better shape and try to climb the entire thing. And the thing that stinks now is it's all paved. At the time I was out there, it was still gravel, past a certain point, and they passed a law in all the national parks that now, every main access road has to be paved. So they paved it. And to me, that takes a lot of the magic out of the Pikes Peak hill climb and all that. I would have loved to get on this bike and make it to the peak of Pikes Peak. But the day that I was there, it was still snowed in. You couldn't get to the peak no matter how hard you tried. And I drove the car to the visitor center where they actually had the road shut down. You're not going to get anywhere close to the top that day no matter what. They had a lot of snow that year. I can't remember what time of year it was. It must have been early, but still. So anyway, like I said, have a lot of history with this bike, did a lot of things with it, and there'll be more of a run through of everything on it in the future, but this was just kind of like a time for me to babble about it, I guess, over my excitement for having this beast back. Just probably the best bike ever made, in my opinion. But anyway, signing off for Gravel Bike Pirate Garage.